Hi guys, so it's off.
Hey,
So we welcome you to today's webinar, Branding Meets STEM, with Johnny and myself, Steffi.
hey guys.
So we greet you from beautiful St. Gallen. It's a bit rainy today, but winter is coming. So let's get started, I say.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like Steffi said, as a brand management platform and loving for brands, of course, digital asset management is a very, very vital part. And we prepared a little small agenda for today's webinar, as we're gonna try to put it into a bigger perspective, where we start off with how to build brand consistent experience across every channel with ease. Second thing, we're going to go into our digital asset management solutions for you that have never seen it before, to try to make it quite basic. And then the third thing is to roll up with some really nice, exciting events coming up. And I think that's pretty much it.
Of course, we will take your questions as well at any stage. If we can't do them in the end, we will bring them offline and answer them on a one-to-one. But so keep them coming.
Absolutely. All right. So the next thing here, the topic of the digital asset management, like I said, it's something that we're very excited about. Absolutely. And up till today, and I'd say pretty much this stage, we haven't really prioritized that, but we've been prioritizing a lot of other things, which is once again talking about the full story. So obviously, DAM plays a really, really vital part in the overall brand management strategy. And to really, to make sure that everyone always have access to the latest assets is important, of course, in order to keep a consistent brand experience. And now to the really billion-dollar question, as we already touched upon, is DAM by itself really enough to keep a brand consistent and really a good brand management strategy in place? Well,
I believe not, Johnny. I believe not.
All right, so a few questions related to that. Does it really tell you how and where and in which context the asset should be used? And does it also provide you with the right information on how to use an asset in the best possible way, and also basically how to use an asset and what not to do when using an asset, a specific asset?
On the website, yeah, and this is really important. Like, it's not only finding assets, but really in which way should we use them. So it's the more strategic approach.
Exactly. So I guess you all have the answers to the question we just came up with, and most probably you can also relate to the following scenarios and situations that we think at least some of you might be very familiar with. So in the first case here, it's like a marketeer, of course, that doesn't exactly know which color to use for a specific background. And in this case, it's of course really important to make sure to having that context as part of your digital asset management, to making sure that you really knows how to use something and that it's that you can easily find that type of information. And the second thing is Peter, the agency partner here. And now in this context, it's about how to use assets and how not to use assets. So partly access management, and also making sure that it's super easy to find the exact assets you're looking for based on dynamic and very multifaceted search.
And of course also the ones which are approved by management, which are approved by your brand management, and that's always very, very important as well.
Absolutely. The third situation with a digital marketing manager is of course here about how to making sure that something is used for the right type of use case again. And wait, did I go in?
Yeah,
I think I went up to the wrong one. Sorry, I was really confused there, guys. So This was the one I was looking for. Yeah, and then the last thing is, of course, when you're using assets, you really want to make sure to use them for the right purpose and the right type of campaign. So, for example, what type of images can you use for a specific marketing material that can be like a dynamic template with then restrictions and rules and compliances in order for you to making sure that all type of material have the maximum brand consistency is brand compliant. So that's sort of the last thing that we wanted to tell you about here. The result out of all of this is, of course, that we love digital asset management, and we realize that it's a key ingredient within your entire brand management strategy. But damn enough is not always enough. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So today, you know, we kind of having this approach, and you've seen this slide maybe before, or this how Frontify as a brand management platform really starts off with the brand guidelines, kind of the heart of the brand, and we have a kind of modular approach. So we're adding on to that with UI pattern library, design brand collaboration, as you mentioned just now, the dynamic templating, and today we really talk about the one part of the whole brand portal and the single source of truth, which is the digital asset management, and how it integrates into all of these other aspects.
All products, yeah. Basically, just a quick note on this. So when we look on brand portal or brand world or brand hub or whatever you want to call it, your entire brand universe, the entry point of this is, of course, and the spine that is related and connected with everything is the guidelines for how to use patterns, guidelines for how to use assets, guidelines for how to collaborate and streamline work processes, and also guidelines of and based on rules or restrictions for different type of templates and different campaigns, regardless if it's web or print. So those are our 5 different products. So style guides, pattern library, media library, as we call the DAM solution, and the workspace and publisher. That's it.
Perfect. So I think it's time to demo this. And for that, I'm going to bring the PC a little bit closer to myself. So don't get a big fright. So I'm going to navigate out of here. So the first thing I'm going to show you is really in our brand space. You're probably familiar with this view at the moment. We have shown that before, but this is our brand space where actually you would create all the different aspects of your brand portal. So you have here your brand portal itself. You can have multiple brand portals as we've shown before. So you could have brand portals for each of your target groups, maybe your agencies, your partners, your suppliers, your internal employees, where the pattern library lives, where we synchronize patterns up from your local development environment. And then we have some projects. And one of these projects here now is my media library. And I show you now in the beginning how you really build everything up in the media library. So I'm now an editor or owner of the media library. Of course, if I don't have access to this, I call it now backend, if you want to say so, I don't see that in my brand space. So for the user, they would just navigate straight away into the brand portal. But I show you that afterwards. So I go now into my media library backend. And here I have the, you know, familiar look and feel of Frontify. I have the left and navigation. And I could now, as a first step, really start to upload my files. And obviously, you guys already have a lot of assets. So we help you with migration. We support you. We automate a lot. So we have a lot of experience with that. But I could now easily just upload an individual asset on a later stage, or I could just drag and drop files in.
When we're talking about just uploading files and so on, what about different formats, Steffi? Can you elaborate on that? Like PNGs, I see JPEG here. What about videos and other type of documents, logos, icons, etc.? So
that's a really good question. So if I scroll down here, I should have somewhere down the line. Yeah, I have a video down here, which obviously is a different file format. But in Frontify, you can really, in the media library, you can have all kinds of documents, file formats. We can host anything. So illustrations, everything.
Banners,
So yeah, absolutely. So there's no limitation to that. So what I'm going to do is I look now for, let's say I look for an image, which, let's say, a girl. Because I'm a girl, I want to look for a girl. And I look for that image now, and obviously we have a little thing prepared here for you. But before I do that and start, working on that asset on its own, I can first of all, look into my project settings, which is for the whole media library. I would really, give here basics links like the name, etc. But you can also here already do some default stuff about, the asset lifecycle management, which you can granularly apply on each asset, but you kind of can control the workflow which is working behind it up here centrally.
So this specific one is the expiry action, meaning so then when the asset expires, then you can either create it so it's going directly into workflow, or if it should expire.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
cool.
I can show you that in a second. On the asset level, and I show you this one before I go into that as well. That's another global setting on the whole media library. It's really about asset download protection, which I'd be able to do here on a default base. So all assets coming into the media library are protected by default if I want to do that. I can put it then on a per asset or per folder level as well. You've seen maybe before in the view that I have smart folders where I can do that as well. Now here I haven't put it on, but I could have different options here about the download function and whoever has to approve the download. What I have down here is for the super user to really define different sizes. I have now defined 3 different sizes. Again, this is to be very consistent. So when I then promote my asset to my end viewer to download, that they can only download certain amount of different sizes, and they are all consistent with what I give them. So for example, I could have a social media size for my social media headings, etc.
So basically, based on the original size, you can scale down. So even if it's a big billboard, you can scale it down to a Facebook asset, and that is working for all type of purposes and all channels. That's
absolutely really
cool.
Yeah.
No limitations either, right?
No limitations at all. The last thing I show you in the global settings is here, and this is my custom meter fields. So I can easily now create, obviously, when I upload an asset, and I show you then that on the asset level, there's lots of details we grab from the asset, like all the tags, the image tags, all the original information, but I might want to give some more information to it. So I want to give some custom metadata. For example, I have a special campaign, and I want to have this done as a select box. And for example, I have a spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And I can easily create a selection box. And I have created this meter field now here. Go out of the settings, and now we're ready. So I go now into an individual picture or asset. You see in the backend, obviously only the original lies. And then when I have a couple of options here now. So first of all, I go into my metadata settings. And I have the possibility here into my metadata to apply now this custom meta tag I just created. For example, I have the other ones which I've seen in the creation before, but I say this picture would say this is a summer campaign picture. So I can apply that now. You see here what Johnny mentioned, and I showed you before, it's the asset lifecycle management. So this is really when an asset expires, what will happen with it? Will we kick off a workflow? And I show you that in a second as well.
Yes, you can basically very easily set from and to dates to making sure that based on licensing and so on, that it's only accessible for a certain amount of time.
Absolutely. And of course, even, if you have stock provider images, but this is also good for, say, if you have employee photographs and pictures you might have only available for a certain time because they're temporary employees, you can kind of really get them expired here through that date. Also, I have here some more standard information. I have the possibility to show a copyright notice when the asset is downloaded. I can phrase that myself. And I see some more information here on my basics tab. Obviously, this file information is all what Frontify takes off the file straight away when we upload.
So you can also, you talk about uploading and so on. You can even bulk upload.
Yeah.
And then,
we can bulk upload to a certain extent, especially you know, in the migration in the beginning, we can really automate that for you, and then we can just drag and drop stuff into Frontify. We have here the different download options. So you see here the download request is not live now, but I could do that now on a or set that on a per asset level. And you see here now my all different sizes which are available. I could now granularly decide if one size shouldn't be available of this asset. Then I see all the tags Frontify has automatically taken off the image tags when I uploaded it. And I see all the other available tags here, or which I could apply now by just clicking on them, or I just could create more tags to it here.
And that's all searchable then within the...
Absolutely, and I show you then the view of the end user in a second. What I can also do here now, I can apply different statuses to an asset, and I could say this has now no status, but I could say this is approved already, but you have all the functionality of the workspace of the Frontify kind of collaboration tool within Frontify, within the digital asset management. So we'd be able to here, you know, add comments to the asset, point feedback, or mark an area, or we could also request approval for this asset. And if it's not approved, and I show you that in here, we have the possibility to define this workflow. And that's really like a Kanban board where you can now either create automated processes, so it's approved automatically by your manager or whatever. And obviously, when it comes into when the asset lifecycle management, when the end date, when we hit the end date, it automatically goes to expired here.
So, and then the person who is owner for that specific expiry stage get notification.
That could be a version, for example, they should check again the licensing maybe. So that would be one workflow, one possibility. So there are lots of...
And it's really easy to customize the workflows and so on.
Absolutely. So that's something in a few clicks done as well, which I haven't shown you here. The editor team is completely separate from the front end, I call it now, what the viewer sees. So I could invite people here by a unique email address, and I invite now our good colleague Silvan. And again, I have here the different roles and permission levels I can give. I could give here the just reviewer level or the editor level, and could invite them as easy as that to the back end of the media library. Now, this is the one part, so where we do all the tagging, the magic work. So if I'm an end user of the media library, so if somebody who just consumes and downloads, what I would do is I would access our brand portal, and you can access that either via direct link, and we can do that via this custom login page we normally provide. But what they agreed it with is this beautiful cover page. And I know, what we initially said, DAM should be much more than just digital asset management. So it should be more strategic, built into a brand portal. And one of the reasons for that is really the access. So if you have a standalone DAM, people don't know where to access. You have to provide a different application again, a different login. So they are confused where to find it. So with Frontify, it's all integrated. So again, you can have either a navigation part up here in the brand portal, or you assign a whole part of the teasers, which you can easily and dynamically customize. And when I go or when the user, the end user now goes into the media library itself, you find very clean look and feel, which is completely customizable. But the end user really, it looks more like we kind of reused the UI more of a stock provider, I would say. So it's not on the left-hand side a big folder tree where the user has to navigate through. We have a very clean and very, very good search up here. So I could now search for an asset. I could also, of course, straight away go in and drill down on my metadata. But first of all, I want to search now for my girl, or the user search for the girl. And then the user can really click on that image. You see again the original information we've seen in the backend basically. And he or she can now download the sizes I've provided them. Also, we have some different file formats we can provide them. We see the original is a JPEG. There's also now PNG or TIFF. I see here all the other tags I could now navigate through as well.
So it's possible basically in the backend to add attachments, even entirely packages, if you wanted to have it in lot of different formats.
Absolutely.
Per asset, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. Cool. And here I see now all my custom metadata. So I can see more information when and where to use the whole thing. So this is really what the end user sees. What's really cool, you know, you guys probably know that better than I do, but production is mostly really expensive. So if you don't want to produce all your assets yourself, you could, as a little workaround to that, you can integrate here different stock providers, say for Adobe Stock and Unsplash, and you could really increase the search results as such, and the user could there straight away then buy an asset. Now, I'm gonna take that out again. What I wanna mention in Adobe Stock, we're partnering with them, so we could really, through their AI learning, we could really teach them your virtual identity. So the search results are really tailored to your corporate identity more and more. So that one.
So it's machine learning, self-learning.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go out of here again now. So the other thing we could really do here as well is when I take out the search now again and just go into the full screen, if I'm an editor of the style guide or of my brand portal, I have a couple of things I can change here as well. So this is all about the front end changing. And here, as you see, I can go into the edit mode like you used to Frontify, and I could really now customize the facets here. So I can add facets, and facets, as Johnny asked me before as well, it might not be as clear. So you could have really multi-dimensional searches of different metadata and tags, which you can bundle here. But I could now easily also have just my campaign field I want to add here, and which is then searchable for the user as well. I can, again, this whole search box, the search button, again, goes back to the design features in the style guide. I can here in this, the filters.
You can customize the look and feel for your entire search field, the search bar, and also add approval levels based on the workflow that you already have set.
Absolutely.
Which stages that should be visible for viewers.
Absolutely. So here I only want to maybe include the approved ones. Obviously, you could also include the other ones. This is totally up to you. So this was one too many. And then obviously I could also change the layout settings here completely. So the height of the image is currently 250. So I could change that to 200. So it looks much neater and nicer here now. So this again is the media library. Again, coming back to the point from the beginning is, so you have an asset library and now the people can find the asset and download it, but that's not really great, is it? Because what Tony said in the beginning, so how you're going to use that asset? And this is something the user could now straight away navigate in here into the style guide. And we have a look into the photography. And there again, I could now use this asset we had with the girl and really describe it. You know, I could really say, how the photograph is done, but also the do's and don'ts about that picture. And that's really important, when to use it, when not to use it. Also, the next big thing is about the social media or campaign hacks. You know, if I have now a new sub website where I want to teaser my new campaign, for example, I go into my UI pattern, so all my code repository, and I might have here some code which I have reused, which I have synchronized up from my local development environment. Again, it has included that asset which is seen, but it also describes that asset and how it's going to use. And also the user can see here now the different
the responsiveness.
The responsiveness of the asset, but the important thing is people see, the designers, the BAs, the agency see what's there, and they can reuse those patterns as well. Not only the developers know what's there, so we don't reinvent the wheel again. And the last thing I really want to show you up here is when we go out in our brand space again, I've prepared another project called My Campaigns. And you can create, of course, as many projects as you like. And there's nothing in here. So what I'm gonna do is now I wanna create, I'm the end user again, I'm working in marketing, I wanna create a new publication. And for that, I have certain templates available.
This is a sketch template that is based
that
on,
is a
for
sketch
web, right?
template. Yeah. So my designer has uploaded a sketch template, but it's also working with InDesign, and we're working with the InDesign server, so it's fully print ready. And the designer can then give some rules and regulation what can be adjusted, which not. And I just saw that that's my summer campaign.
I realized that we have some questions as well, so we need to hurry up.
Yeah, but we can always take them offline. So that's so no worries. So we finish up here in a second, and we take the questions, and otherwise we take them all offline. So if I'm here in my template now, I can go into the edit mode and go into my layer view, and I could really see now, okay, here my editor allowed me, or my design allowed me to edit these two layers. And for example, he allowed me to replace that image. Yeah, and I could now reuse my girl again. Because
reuse, that sounds harsh.
No, I could really use that girl. And I think it's a much better summer picture. I could now also say, okay, that's a bit out of focus. I want to have it a little bit differently done here. And do it like that. And I could also change now the summer text, etc. And then I could really say, okay, this is finished now, and I really want to download it, or I'm gonna go through a workflow and get it published on a social media channel. So this is now our newest addition to the family. That's really the publisher.
We call it publisher. You can dynamic templating, and I can say pretty much this is really the first product that we're launching that go beyond the repository. So until now, we've been 100% focused on how you can gather all your things and having them at one single place, regardless if it's patterns or if it's media assets or if it's the core style guide, of course. But now we're taking it to the next level. So based on that you have all your brand assets and belongings and guidance in one single place, you can now create dynamic templates across global teams to making sure that no matter what type of communication material that has been created or that should be created is always brand compliant based on the restrictions and the rules that is done by the editors.
Absolutely.
And the designers.
And we have a really cool webinar for that coming up on the 4th of December. And actually our founder, Roshi, will do it together with myself. Before that, we have a really cool webinar on the 13th of November. You should join with Oliver and Paul Borg. And that it's really around digital teams. So all the patterns you've seen, and it's about digital teams and how to scale them. What we can offer you before we come to some questions, we can offer you 30 days free Frontify enterprise trial, and you can also test there the beta testing of, join the beta testing of the publisher. So that's something we're very excited about. Obviously, this would make much more sense if you use the DAM. So we really see and hope we kind of made the point and it came across, even if I talk a lot and probably we're out of time nearly, that a DAM on its own is not enough. Yeah. It's not a strategic product, but if you integrate it in the whole process of creation, of production of your media assets, of your digital assets, I think it becomes a very, very strategic tool.
Absolutely. So we can just start by going over some questions, guys. And we're sorry that we didn't look into the questions earlier on, but let's just quickly go through it now.
No, I'm sorry, we are off. No, we take them all online. Don't worry, we're gonna be answered all the questions. We take them one by one, and we are gonna talk to you very soon, hopefully again. Right. So that's it from our side. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
and
guys.
Bye-bye from St. Gallen.